Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Our next speaker heads the JDA's Global Retail Strategy Group and is responsible for go-to-market strategy across the globe, as well as advising JDA's investment direction for its retail solutions. With his extensive experience on retail for the last 30 years, he is featured regularly in leading retail publications and business press, as well as on radio and TV, where he gives retailers advice on retail trends and challenges, in particularly around omni-channel investment, supply chain agility, and digital transformation. He was named as one of the top 20 global retail influencers by WWD USA, and he is also a regular panelist in major retail events and sits on the advisory board of the World Retail Congress. Please welcome everyone from JDA Software, Mr. Lee Gill.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. What I wanted to do in the next 30 minutes or so is just give you a little bit of, I guess, foresight, a bit of a preview into what really is happening in this digital transformation that's taking place in retail across the globe. We're seeing it move at different speeds in different countries. Within the UK, which is probably the most advanced country in terms of online penetration, we are seeing the retail landscape completely transformed. We're seeing the full effect of the maturity of online really transforming the whole retail model. And then in other countries, maybe the Philippines, Mexico, Brazil, we see it operating at different speeds. And really what I want to share with you here today is what that journey looks like, and when you've taken that journey, what's likely to happen beyond there. If I start with the catalyst for all of this change, it's this person. It's basically all of you in the room, customers, shoppers. This person, really does demand a different shopping experience, and it is this person, driven by technology capability, that really is now beginning to drive a new retail model. But again, what does that retail model really look like? It starts with the shopping journey. This is, I think, the shopping journey you might expect to see in emerging markets. Pretty straightforward. It starts with the awareness of your brand. It starts with purchase in a store environment, and then if those two things go well, you're rewarded with loyalty. That's the old model in a bricks and mortar world. It's very important to know the shopping journey is changing. The first thing that changes is the awareness. Social networks are now an endemic part of retailing. It is social networks that really drives your brand credibility and brings customers to you and not the competition. The second thing is this very critical stage of research. If you look at the maturity of online trading, research is a very, very important part, and research takes many forms. Research could be basically looking at product information, customer reviews, price comparison, and if your brand doesn't have this research element to it, or the awareness element to it, then the customers are likely to go to the competition. The next stage is also critically changed, that decision stage of purchase. Okay, today it's in the store environment, but tomorrow it'll be purchased the way I want to buy. Any device, anytime, 24/7. And then with online trading comes fulfillment. And this is where retailers, as they transition the journey, can sometimes trip up. And fulfillment is a critical part. And this is the part where Amazon stole market share. Amazon wanted and saw a future model that said, we will do home delivery in 60 minutes. 60 minutes. Now, in a country as big as America, that's a challenge, but it's only a logistics challenge. It's a challenge that can be dealt with through supply chain, through hub and spoke networks, but the important thing here, they saw this as a key differentiator and something customers wanted. And it is that journey which at the end, you are then rewarded in loyalty, through customer reviews, through social media. If you don't perform that journey well, you'll be punished. So when I spent my time going around the world meeting many big retailers, particularly in the emerging countries, and I asked them what they're doing about their omni-channel strategy, what they will say is, yep, we understand we need a website. We understand that we need an order management engine. We understand we need better inventory control. They actually don't understand the problem. You don't start with technology. You actually start with this. You actually look at the customer journey that exists today in your business. At each key stage of this, what is that customer experience you're providing today? And that in itself makes a very interesting debate at the boardroom level. But then the most important thing is, what is your end state? Before you even buy a website, what is that end state going to look like? How does your shopper's customer journey look like at each of these critical stages? And I'm talking about getting into deep, deep, deep granularity at every single one of these stages. At the end of this, when you've painted this journey, you'll probably be pretty spooked, because you'll just question whether the journey is actually achievable. But that's what Amazon did. That's what Alibaba did. That's what JD.com did. These guys painted a future journey, and then they looked at capability enablement, technology investment, infrastructure investment, and then they mapped that out at a time pace that suited their business model. But it starts with customer journeys. The best retailers I meet around the world have got this superbly defined. So what does this journey look like? And I just had a very simple map. And this map sort of talks about a division point. It talks about a world where retail has gone through an evolutionary stage. And that really is the world of bricks and mortar, perhaps catalogs, whatever. But it really was an evolutionary journey that drove retail for the last 50, 60 years. The minute you go digital, you start a completely different journey. It becomes transformational, not evolutionary. So, we're all familiar with this. We spent our time building stores, diversifying stores, expanding our stores, multi-formatted stores if I'm in the grocery business, perhaps multi-branded. We did a lot of stuff around real estate to really expand our footage and our capability. Very interesting. In the USA and in the UK, very advanced markets, it's all being reversed. It's all being reversed. Shopping malls are now closing down. We're seeing occupancy rates declining in shopping malls, and we're seeing big stores also closing down and being reduced in size. So there is one route which I think we followed on the store side. On the assortment side, yeah, our product ranges, we've expanded. We've expanded into extended ranges, very importantly private label, a very important thing to compete with these big marketplaces that are forming, and then diversified assortments. So a lot of stuff keeping retailers very busy and driving top line growth and also investment. But then it all changes. The minute you switch on your website and you start to go digital, offering capability online through mobile phones, through PCs, laptops, whatever, it changes. The first big mistake retailers made in the westernized countries who are pretty advanced in this model is they switched on the website and really thought that was the opportunity to drive revenue. What they did by switching on this website is in fact become a multi-channel retailer, a very, very dangerous place to be. And multi-channel retailers then understood the problems of that and became omni-channel, but I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So we drive our revenue, we introduce digital as a new channel, and it does drive revenue growth. I just came from the TV station when I was asked by the presenter there, what does online really mean to retail? It's very, very simple. Online, in most retail countries that have had it for a while, is growing at 20%. 20%. Online will then grow to represent somewhere between 10 and 25, 30% of your total sales. And when you get online and offline shoppers really beginning to shop across channels, they tend to spend 3 to 4 times more. So yeah, it's a very, very important source of additional revenue. But also what comes with it is fulfillment. And fulfillment brings with it a very, very expensive cost. It's very simple. If I talk about the UK model today, the grocery shopping basket tends to be about £80. Fulfillment costs are about £15, but they only charge customers £3.50. As that business model scales, you've got to really think about the implications of margin erosion in that scenario. So yes, you can get increased revenue on the left side, middle, then there is this increase in cost. It's not just the increase in cost that has to be addressed through proper investment, but it's also, very importantly, the brand you are putting at risk if you get it wrong. So you can go online, you can offer people the chance to have click and collect in the store, you can offer customers a chance to have click and deliver to the house. And if you make that promise, it might be next day delivery, it may be 2 days delivery over here. If you're making that promise and you don't fulfill on that promise, it is really quite brand damaging, as we see in these Western markets. There are horrific reports of customers saying, products turn up late, I get substitution, didn't get what I wanted. So you can't just offer a website and a fulfillment proposition unless you can execute successfully on it, or you put your brand at risk. I think the other big challenge here is if you operate multi-channel, you really do risk presenting your customers with 2 different views of the brand. My experience with your brand in store might be different to my experience with your brand online. And that tends to happen when you have got siloed departments within the organisation. And it's a killer. It really will damage the brand. You get basically 2 different propositions. So we always talk about, in that customer journey, really thinking about what we call a homogeneous brand experience, something where it feels completely seamless. So for us, I think multi-departments are dangerous. You have to start with a silo. There's no way around it. If you really want to drive online, you've got to create a digital department. But again, it has to transition into the mainstream business. And you have to therefore make sure that there's one homogeneous view of the brand. You can get that right and go from multi-channel to omni-channel, but again, fulfillment is the big, big issue here also. Let me just talk about fulfillment a little bit. This is where, as I said, the marketplaces took a lead. When you do offer fulfillment, it's getting quite complex. The end journey gets complex. One of the leading retailers in the UK is owned by Walmart, and they offer this. They offer click, and we'll do home delivery, workplace delivery, store collection, commuter stations, drive-through. They offer all this. This is actually quite challenging. If you think about the supply chain implications of inventory positioning, inventory visibility, and offering this type of service in a profitable manner, it gets quite challenging. But it's absolutely critical because this is how the customer wants to shop. They want to shop their way. So if we just take that journey a little stage further, interesting to look at the advanced markets now. They've got pretty much omni-channel nailed. Yeah, they've got that seamless shopping experience, they merge their departments together, and they can truly call themselves omni-channel. The biggest problem they now have, and I'm talking about the States, I'm talking about, again, parts of Europe, the biggest problem they've got is this thing just doesn't stop growing. So, you'll see online sales in consumer electronics companies now representing 40, 50% of total sales. In department stores, 30% of total sales. Books, music, they've gone. They are now digital. It's very hard to find a bookshop anymore, or a digital, or a CD. So these operations are now having to really scale with volume. And if you think about the implications of that, we are now seeing the role of the store change. If you talk to retailers in these advanced markets, as we do, the role of the store is changing. If you want to offer click and collect in the store environment, which customers want, and by the way, it's a lot cheaper than home delivery, if you want to offer this, where are you going to do the picking from? Are you going to pick in the warehouse and send it to the store, the collection? The evolution tends to be I'm going to pick in the store, and then that way I can offer click and collect in 1 hour. Of course, there's no logistics implications. The battle again in the advanced markets isn't just about price, fighting your competition on price. It's about who can do this myriad of different fulfillment options, and most importantly, who can do it the fastest. That's where it's all at. So a DIY retailer in the UK now does click and collect in 15 minutes. So it's really beginning to change. The role of the store is also changing. Stores are declining, but they're being also reinvented. This is typically how a store looked pre-digital. Yeah, maybe laid out to selling footage. That's how it looked pre-digital. The minute you go digital, it's going to change. Number one, the store has got to be made more exciting. You've got to give shoppers a reason to go to stores. So we're seeing stores reinvented. There are some exceptional examples of stores being completely reinvented. Some of the best examples exist in China, in my humble opinion. If you want to see the future of grocery, go and see what's happening in a company called Huma, owned by Alibaba. Absolutely unbelievable. See what JD.com have done in reinventing their food store called 7 Fresh. And we'll see this also happen in department stores and other stores. How do you reinvent that store environment to provide, phenomenal experience? Oh, and by the way, how do you, if you want to collect in store and offer in-store collection of online, you've got to start to have space for picking, holding. You've got to deal with returns if you're in the fashion business. Returns is a bit of a killer. In the fashion business, returns now represents about 30% of sales. How do you affect that? How do you drive down that 30% return rate? It all comes back to business policies. In your shopping journey of the future, you make a decision. You'll either choose to offer free delivery, or you'll charge for delivery. If you offer free delivery for these clothing items, just understand what happens. People won't order one. They'll order 3 sizes of the same item, because I can try and look at the fit, and I know there's no cost in getting it or returning it. So returns becomes a big issue. Online fulfillment in the store environment becomes a big deal, and we are seeing this model absolutely there in the most advanced markets. So the role of the store is changing. The supply chain will also change. And again, some retailers have thought about this, other retailers haven't. And when you look at the supply chain, most supply chains over the last 60 years were designed to handle bulk and move bulk really efficiently. That's what they were trying to do. Big boxes from a manufacturer to a warehouse, to a DC, into the store environment. It was a pretty efficient one-way supply chain. So we are spending our time with retailers now having to re-engineer this model, which looks like this. It looks like this. It's a matrixed supply chain because inventory now moves in multiple directions. Inventory goes through to the store, it goes directly to a customer's home, it comes back. Fulfillment may be from store to store. It's a very complex fulfillment operation. And if you really want to start offering and promising 1 hour delivery, then you've got to have a pretty good inventory visibility wherever it is in that supply chain and a good understanding of lead times. That's how it's done. So the store will change, supply chains are also changing. And all of that in the West is on the back of massive growth. Just consider for one moment, online sales globally 15 years ago were this big. Just 15 years ago. Online sales this year will be $2.5 trillion. Globally, that's about 10% of retail sales, and it's going like a train. It's growing at double-digit rates of growth, and I'm afraid the store is declining in growth. But that is what is going on in these pretty advanced markets at the moment, and it has pretty profound implications for a retailer and its investment decisions. There are also other big changes that take place as you begin to mature on this journey. It's worth understanding that the composition of the board of directors will change. The role of your associates in the buying department will change. And it looks a little bit like this. In the boardroom, we see many chiefs. Many chiefs being created. Chief Digital Officer, someone who is the custodian to drive this future customer journey and then align the business behind it. A critical role for retailers, not in mature markets, but a critical role at retailers who are probably at your maturity in the Philippines, in Mexico and Brazil. So we're seeing Chief Customer Officers, Chief Digital Officers. We're seeing the role of the CIO changing. We're seeing the role of CIO changing. If you look at the advances in technology, it's changing. I'll explain that in a few slides. The buying departments. In these advanced retailers, they've got merchandisers, they've got buyers, but they've got this new person called a data analyst, a data scientist. And we see, within the next few years, more and more data analysts, data scientists really getting involved in the buying departments, really analysing data, and I'll show you in a few slides what I mean by that. The role of the store will change, and then of course we're seeing retailers really wanting to understand the impact of the advancement of technology and how they can extract business value from it, and they're creating their own plans. So the change is taking place on multiple fronts. It happens organisationally, in structure, it happens in the store environment, in the supply chain, it happens on multiple fronts. But the journey continues. The journey then really begins to transition the retail organisation to something that is truly customer-centric. Truly customer-centric. And what do I mean by that? That really is about starting that journey of deep segmentation. Segmenting your customers and really beginning to understand their needs, their wants, and how they map the customer journey. So quite a lot of change taking place at the moment. And then just one sobering slide. My career, I grew up in Marks and Spencer and Brooks Brothers, and the mantra in Marks and Spencer in the UK, by the geniuses who created that business, was always this, of a very clear reminder: sales is for vanity, profit is for sanity. And that's the game we're getting into here. As you take this transformational journey to omnichannel, don't get seduced by the double-digit rates of growth. Don't get seduced about, expanding the digital presence without thinking very hard about the cost base. And I just have a few examples on here. These are, on the left-hand side, this is absolutely what will happen when you start this journey. You will drive additional revenues. You won't get the cannibalization people fear. You will drive additional revenue. You can increase market share if your competition is a bit slow. And you can do many other things. You can drive additional revenue by driving cross-channel. But at the same time, there will be, pressure on OPEX, on CAPEX, and many other things. So the journey is interesting, but there is this sobering moment which I think has got to be factored in to any future plan. Now, when you've done all that, the world's going to change again. And this is now what I talk about when I go meet the most advanced retailers who have got omnichannel sorted out, who have really begun to address that profitability challenge. And I say to them, guys, I'm afraid it's all going to change again, and it's going to change on a number of fronts. One thing we have to do in JDA is we have to get a crystal ball. And in that crystal ball, we're trying to look at what's going to happen to retail in 3 years, 5 years' time. Our software's got to be built in advance of that, so our customers have the capability when they need it. So if I look into the crystal ball, I look at 3 major tsunami trends. The first one is technology advancement. You've seen nothing yet. Nothing. And I'm going to share with you in a second what I mean by that. It has the power to disrupt everything. The second is this, what I call generational and societal shift in consumers that will change the retail model. And then the third area, which is really scary, are these new forms of competition, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So we think about these things as something JDA has to really think about, because retailers will think about it. But what is our sort of prediction? We think this. Whether we are right or wrong, I don't know, but we really think that digital commerce will grow to about 50% of retailer sales. This is reality in certain categories, in certain countries today. But it's not a blip. This is a permanent transitional correction to retail. It will become 50%, 40, 60, I don't know. But it's going to become a very big part of the business. We believe there will be 50% fewer shopping malls. We believe there will be 50% fewer big shops. If you want to see that in action, jump on a plane, go to the UK, go to the States, and you can see this really now beginning to play out. It has profound implications. It's very interesting to us that the largest retailers in the world will be technology companies. Technology companies. Who will that be? JD.com, Alibaba, Amazon. It's not a surprise. Technology is driving this. If I were to ask you, the audience, who is the biggest hotel company in the world? It would be Airbnb. Guess what? They don't own a single room. Who is the biggest taxi company in the world? Uber. They don't own a single car. Who is going to become the biggest retailer in the world? Alibaba. They don't own a single shop. So there's some very interesting stuff going on out there today, which we're getting our heads around. I think voice commerce is really going to be probably one of the biggest changes taking place. Voice will basically dominate everything, and I'll talk about that later. So, there was a very, very smart CEO in the UK in consumer electronics, and he said this, and it caught my attention. I thought, yeah, you're probably right. You do have to not tweak your business model, but reinvent it. So it becomes unrecognizable in 5 years' time. So what are these technology drivers? I think the single biggest driver of change, which is going to affect everybody in every industry, will be artificial intelligence. Absolutely staggering what this will do to the world, what it will do to retailing, what it will do to customers. And I would say we are just scratching the surface. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, data science, all these things really will allow retailers to drive better operational efficiency, drive better customer personalization, and drive a better customer experience. Internet of Things just started. Internet of Things is what we are getting our heads around as we basically want to track everything in real time from the farm to the fork. And there's many others here, and these are the things that really will begin to affect retailers. And you see it now in some of the most advanced retailers in the world. They are building strategies around each of these areas. They're building innovation labs to really understand the business value. So forget about omni-channel in these advanced markets. That's just like yesterday's news. This is where they're getting their head around. I'll skip this slide because of time, but we're also thinking very much about what is happening to the customer base. We know today, Macy's, Marks and Spencer in the UK, they know that the next generation of customers, the sons, the daughters of their existing customers, are going to behave very, very differently. Generation Y, Z, millennials, they have no loyalty to a retailer. If you don't give them what they want, which is basically on-demand shopping at their time, anytime, with the fulfillment promise, with the social media interaction so they can get endorsement from their peers, you don't offer that, someone else will offer that. So a lot of change taking place, either through urbanization, and urbanization has big implications. We are seeing shops closing, big out-of-town grocery stores closing down. Why? Urbanization is driving buying and eating little and often, a different style of this big weekly shop. We're seeing greater diversity driving different assortment requirements, an aging population with money wanting to be treated differently to how you probably do today. So again, we in JDA, we look very hard at what the implications of this all means and what it means for our software. And I think one of the big things, and this is, in my opinion, a journey that needs to start now, particularly in advanced markets, but this is a 10-year journey in my mind, 5 years, 10 years, depending on the investment. So the old world of saying, I've got 20 million people who shop with me every week. And I'm going to take all the loyalty data, I'm going to take all the online data, I'm going to throw it into a machine, and it's going to segment them into 10 categories. This guy only ever buys on deals, a value shopper. This particular category is fashion forward, and so forth, so 10 categories. I think this will be confined to the history books. I believe that that level of segmentation will increase. We believe in JDA, the ultimate goal is to take those 20 million shoppers and create a segment of one. It can never, ever be achieved, certainly not by humans. But you can certainly get closer, and you'll get closer because of machine learning. You'll get much closer because it is capable of handling vast amounts of data and learning about behavior and then refining and refining and refining. So 15 categories of customers might become 15,000 levels of customers, driven by machines. Then comes the hard part. Then you've got to really, really understand the attributes and define those attributes for each of those customers. Attributes meaning characteristics. And when you've done all that hard work, you've then got to do much harder work, which is then drive the attribution of your products, your business services, fulfillment. It's only by doing that you can then map the two together, make personalized offers, and these personalized offers will be relevant as opposed to intrusive. This is a big deal journey that we started building capability for 3 years ago. But it is in my mind, and I've been in retail 35 years, in my mind, it is the inevitable future of retailing. It is about mass personalization. And then just a couple of points on competition. Technology is driving new forms of competition. You probably have no feel of this in the Philippines just now, but I've got to tell you again, in the Western markets, this is a very big deal. There is a new beast out there, a new monster, and it looks a little bit like this. Today, a retailer, they build stores, and they fight with other retailers. My store offer, your store offer, that's what happens. And then you go online. You go online, and basically, you then make the journey to omnichannel. But this new beast, if I could use that metaphor, behaves very differently. They do this, but what they also do is broaden their customer base. They don't just want business to consumer, B2C. They want B2B, B2C, C2C, and I could go on. A very diverse customer base. It gives them phenomenal buying power, it gives them a very far reach. But it doesn't stop there. What they then do is once they've actually got you, they produce these fantastic additional sources of revenue. So we'll now charge you membership fee for Prime. You become a Prime member, you can have special deals, delivery same day, you pay $99 a year. Subscription services, third-party fulfillment, technology services, Amazon Web Services, a phenomenal profit contributor. So what really is so special about this slide? This slide says when this person turns up on your doorstep, they've got firepower. They've got very deep pockets and a lot of firepower. They don't need to make money on retail. They make money on all that left-hand side. And when they do get you, they're going to lock you in. They're going to lock you in because they're going to give you free video, free music, free reading books, Kindle. They're going to lock you in so it's very hard for you to even think about going anywhere else. Why would you? I was at my desk last week and my voice recorder, the batteries ran out of my voice recorder. Very simple. I've got Alexa in the room, which is Amazon's voice control. I said, Alexa, can you order me 4 AAA batteries? Yes. That was it. They turned up that day. That was it. Frictionless shopping, ultimate convenience. Amazon's got all my details, they know my payment details, they know everything. So it's a very interesting model. If I show you this in real life, it looks more like this. Where do you see retail on this slide? I see a phenomenal ecosystem. I see a platform, and I see a lot of firepower with a lot of services and multiple sources of revenue. And these two operations, one is a black hole in the west, and one is becoming a black hole in the east. And they also have additional people like JD.com. So that's the new type of competition that is emerging. And if you think about traditional bricks and mortar retailers, they are getting caught out in some cases. The world's biggest retailer got caught out by this, and they've been trying to reverse engineer. So this is what Walmart, who are spending billions and billions and billions of dollars, are now trying to do. So it's a very different sort of retail model. You know, as I said before, it's not just the journey to omni-channel. Just think about some of these things, and then it gets worse. You're going to see other types of competition. But the big lesson for me is the investment up front, taking that courageous and brave move of investing up front. This slide I thought was really interesting. These are the biggest operators in the world and their R&D investment. What don't you see on there? I don't see a single retailer. And then what happens if you fast forward? So you now fast forward to 2017, and who's at the top? Amazon. Spending a phenomenal amount of money, $16 billion a year to go and kill the competition. That's their sole aim. Building a capability that the competition will find hard to catch up on or even pay for. But then of course, this is interesting, but what is the reward of all that investment? Very sobering slide. This is the top 5 retailers in 2010. The usual suspects. Walmart, Carrefour, Metro, Tesco, usual suspects. Wind that forward, it looks like this. The biggest retailers will be technology companies. It is extraordinary how in just 10 years, 15 years, they've come to take over this $25 trillion business. And it's all on the back of these big technology investment decisions. And then, I don't want to depress you, but there's new forms of competition coming as well, which are really now eating into market share. So people like, businesses like voice commerce. Voice commerce is going to become incredibly big business. Things like these niche subscription type businesses. You know, anything that's got a predictable consumption pattern is now going onto a subscription service with the lure of a discount. So many different forms of competition. And of course, we're going to see discounters with their super low overheads also continue to drive, you know, further expansion. And then of course, manufacturers going direct to consumers. They've always wanted to do this, but they were hopeless at doing it. Now, they don't need the skills, the expertise. You know why? They simply go onto an Amazon or an Alibaba or JD.com website, and you can go direct to consumer. We call it the disintermediation of retail. So, my last slide. If I look at all of this, and then I think about all the meetings I have around the world with many, many retailers, and someone says to me, you know, what is the lesson to be learned here? I would say the single biggest thing I observe is inertia as the biggest enemy. It's not affecting me yet. I was with the president in a very big retail chain in Mexico. He said it's 1% of business. Why do I care? Okay, don't care. But by the way, 6 months later, Amazon announced that they were entering that marketplace and they were going to go kill it. So you can either wait for that catalytic moment, or you can plan for it. Remember, the plan isn't to go and spend 200 million on software. The plan is to define that future customer journey. That's where it starts, before you do anything else. Start with the customer journey. And then, you know, to use that phrase from the McDonald's president, he talked about roots, then wings. If you don't have foundation in place, your journey will fall over. If you don't have control of inventory, you don't have control of your supply chain, and you start this journey, you'll fall over like so many retailers did fall over. And then I say, led or be led. You know, again, on this interview I just did, I was asked, you know, what is the catalyst here? Why are people not getting after it more aggressively? And I've heard all sorts of things said in many places. Oh, hang on, it's bandwidth. Mobile's very weak. The traffic jams are pretty bad. I hear all these things. I don't think they are barriers. I think they are challenges. They are the sort of challenges Amazon and Alibaba love to have, because if they can find solutions to those challenges, the competition sure will take a long time to catch up. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. We'd like to request Mr. Hill to please remain on stage as we call on these gentlemen to present you with our plaque of appreciation. Mr. Arthur Coronel, PRA Vice President and President of Cinderella Marketing Corporation. Mr. Roberto Claudio, PRA Vice Chairman and Chairman of Toby Sports. Also, Mr. Hill will receive gift tokens courtesy of the Primer Group of Companies and the PRA coffee table book, Legends, Lives, and Legacies.